Hi, this is Henry, and welcome to Ticket to Life. I was almost trying to sound like Miss Rachel. Hi! I don't know if you know who Miss Rachel is, but she's this amazing preschool teacher on YouTube. And no, she's not sponsoring me to say this, but she's just an amazing, amazing woman. She started, what I have read about her is she started her YouTube podcast. I guess she left the classroom. I don't know. Well, I guess, I don't think she has a podcast. Maybe she does. But anyway, she's on YouTube. And she started from her small apartment in New York. And she's become this famous woman. And she's just loving and sweet and lots of learning and using her education to help kids. It's really a cool story. So look for Miss Rachel and you'll see her and she'll go, hi. And it's the sweetest voice. And my grandson will see it. No, we don't put him in front of the TV for hours, like some babysitters might do. But we let him watch for about 15 minutes because she has different segments of learning, like for babies, toddlers, and she goes on and on and on. And I know that my granddaughter in Kansas is 2, and she enjoys watching Miss Rachel too. She has this calming, sweet voice. But anyway, I wish I would have had that nurturing voice when my kids were little, but no, I didn't. But hey, just being honest. Anyway, this is Henry, and welcome to Ticket to Life. And if you are new to the podcast, thank you for joining. I say anything about everything in life. It's always about my thoughts and my opinions, and some people may agree with them and some people may not. If you'd like for me to share your story, all names have been changed to protect the innocent. Send me an email at tickettolife022@gmail.com. Don't be shy. I will not start stalking you and asking you all sorts of questions. I may talk about your email and your story about life and something you've gone through, because something you've gone through could possibly be something that someone else is going through. And that's the only thing I really emphasize in life. Don't ever feel like you're alone and going through something all by yourself, because there's someone out there and they are probably going through it too. So today's podcast, we're going to be talking about babysitters. Some of you may be single parents. Some of you may be a parent of 6 kids or more, or you may be a parent of 1. So we're going to talk about babysitters and a little bit of here and there and there here, just about life and being a mom, but or a dad. The other thing I wanted to let you know, we just got back from Vegas last week because my husband's had a birthday. He turned 70 and we celebrated that. It was in April, but we celebrated Mother's Day and his birthday all at the same time. So we went to Vegas. I have to admit, we have not flown on American Airlines in a while because we usually go Sun Country. But we had all these miles and I said, why not? So we use them. And I have to tell you, American Airlines, well, Sun Country, the people are always so kind also. But since we haven't flown American for a while, they were awesome. The crew was amazing. One of the flight attendants asked how many kids we had, and we said 2. And we never, ever buy drinks on a flight. And I told my husband, you know what? We're celebrating. Let's get a drink. So we both got Coke and Jack and Coke, and it's pretty good. That's our choice of beverages when we're flying now. Anyway, and the flight attendant said, how many kids do you have? We said 2, 3 grandkids. And he said, you know what? Happy Mother's Day. I'll take care of your drink. And Dad, you come fly in February on Father's Day in June, and I'll take care of your drink. And I thought, well, I don't think we'll be flying in June. But anyway, they were just nice. It just wasn't that going through check-in. People were telling me Happy Mother's Day. It was just, they were just so wonderful. Now, on the way back, that was another story. The flight attendants were great, but Texas has been having some major storms, like not just, sprinkles, but they've had some major storms. So we had changed our flight from 12:30 the day we were leaving to 5 a.m. because we thought, let's just leave early. You know, here in Vegas, your time is, and we're Central Time, and they are 2 hours behind. So our minds were just messed up with time. But anyway, so we we did that, and it was okay, but we did not have a direct flight. We had to go, they had to close DFW. So we weren't able to land, but the pilot was great, made an announcement. So we went to Amarillo for a couple hours, an hour and a half maybe. And then he said it's time to go. They've opened DFW back, but we had to fly in that storm. And the flight attendant was honest, and she said, if you have a queasy stomach, we have bags. And some people are like, oh, well, I don't, by the grace of God, have a queasy stomach, but this poor woman in the back, it did not go well. But I was so impressed with those pilots because I looked out the window and we were like, you couldn't see anything. He flew in that storm. So kudos to that pilot because he was amazing. American Airlines, you did a great job. It was just, I don't know how they do it. I have no idea how they do it. It's just amazing. First of all, of course, I'm sure I was throwing in some prayers here and there. Oh, God, please let us get there safely. And please let all the other flights around us know where we are here. But it was amazing just to know. And my husband says, we are in the storm. And literally, that plane, it was probably like the last 5-10 minutes before we landed. It was pretty bumpy. But anyway, if you're afraid to fly, just to let you know, these pilots are trained and they are amazing. And did you know that you're more likely to be in a car accident 10 miles away from your home than you are to have an accident or die on a flight? So don't be scared to fly. You're near heaven, so there we go. But anyway, we had a great time in Vegas. I think we're going to give Vegas a break because we go every year, once or twice a year. I think it's time to give it a little bit of break. I think age is catching up to us, but you know what? That's okay. But before I start, I would like to say to all the people who have ever questioned themselves about life and where it's taking you, I will tell you to always follow your heart, not always your mind. Sometimes we think too much about our body parts, our negative parts in our lives, because there's always some sort of negative, but always know there's always a positive. So sometimes when I think we think too much negative, you got to turn that around. Find that positive. You're alive. You're moving. You've got people that love you. You have a job. So somewhere, someone, like as I've said, is going through the same identical thing you might be going through. So always know you're never alone in life's journey. That's what Ticket to Life is all about, just to let people know, because life is tough. It's not easy being an adult, but it is not easy being a parent either. So just to let you know, you're never alone. Seek the Lord, and you'll be amazed how your life will change, and that you, again, will never, ever be alone on this journey, because life is a journey. We have no idea what's going to happen from day to day, and this takes us to babysitters. How many of us are ready for summer? I'm sure all the school teachers are just like, all educators are like, thank God it's here. Because being a teacher at this time in our lives is pretty tough. It's scary. There's so many school shootings. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. I do blame some parents for this stuff, but, who am I? But again, summer's here. And for many of you, you're either scrambling to find a babysitter or summer camps for your kids or your school-age kids, or hopefully finding someone reliable who just loves kids. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to stay home with my kids. And yes, it was tough financially. We were broke all the time, but we survived. And yet, we had an agreement when we said I do. And that was that we both wanted children and that I would stay home. My mom would stay home. Of course, that was the 50s and 60s, and that's what moms did. But it was important to me that I be home with my kids. I did eventually get a part-time job, but the kids got to go with me. I was working at a Mother's Day out at a church, so that was great because they were always with me down the hall or whatever. So I just want you to know that this is a hard job, not just getting up in the morning is hard, but when you have kids, there's a little extra stuff. Your whole life changes. But again, my husband and I had decided this is what we wanted to do, and we agreed on it, and we did it. And I have a son and a daughter for those new listeners, and they are fantastic. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren. And the month of May is the oldest grandchild's birthday. She's in Kansas and she turns 5. And we are just so excited and just can't believe she's 5. But anyway, and happy birthday to you. And again, it's there. One of the harder things now, I think, is finding good childcare, daycare, and they're expensive. It's so a lot of parents are like, "Is it worth me working? Because my whole check is just going to childcare." It's very pricey, and now with things that have changed, there are stay-at-home dads or moms are out there, doing the full-time work, and dads are staying home, and dads are accomplishing everything that women thought that they could only do. And some dads are just meant to be stay-at-home dads. I have episode 40 is stay-at-home dads, Ticket to Life. And you can hear Ticket to Life on your favorite podcast platform. And also it's on, because I believe Google has already stopped posting podcasts, but now it's on YouTube. It's just the audio. It's not me live or anything. And anyway, so dads are staying home. So I have a neighbor who is a pastor, and Kyle, that's his name. I did an interview with him in 2022, and he's a stay-at-home dad. So it's episode 40 if you would like to hear his side and his story, and you can hear his take on being a stay-at-home dad. Since that interview, they have a 3rd child, a little girl, so we're really happy for their family in our neighborhood. And again, I have said in the past, one of the hardest jobs you will ever do is being a parent and raising a child. It's tough. It is so tough, and I believe it's harder now with everything that's out there. This technology stuff is a big issue for me. It's tough that it's watching your kids is who's watching them? Who's going to watch your child? Will they technically be raising your child or your children due to the fact that you're going to be at work? So who's raising you or the caregiver or the babysitter or daycare? On the average week, your child will be at daycare, if you work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, over 40 hours. 40 hours is where your child will be, not with you. And there's an average of 168 hours in a week. So you put that time, and how much time are you actually able to spend with your child? Waking hours, it's not very much. Getting them ready for school in the morning, or taking them to a babysitter, childcare, or the nanny coming to your house. And then the drop off, pick them up in the afternoon. Or if you come home and you do have a nanny, you're coming home, and then what's next? You're feeding them or running off to a soccer game or a basketball game, and then you're getting them home and you're bathing them. If they're older, of course, hopefully they are all bathing on their own, and then off to bed. So you don't really get to spend that much time with your kids, and it's tough. And I know we all want to give our kids everything, but just remember, if you're providing food, clothing, shelter, you're doing a great job. I mean, that is the main thing of raising a little human being. So if they are involved in extracurriculum activities, please do your best to attend, and don't rely on a babysitter or a grandparent. Of course, the grandparents will want to go. Even the babysitter might want to go and go with you to root your child on. But it's important for kids to see mom and dad out there. Or, if not one or the other, at least both. And when you're out there, put your stinking phones down. And if you're a doctor and you have your phone, you don't need to be staring at it, because if there's an emergency that occurs and you have to leave, your child will understand, but don't be staring at your phone. I have a friend, and we're going to call her Fiona, because Fiona apparently is my favorite name to call these anonymous people. And Fiona has a little girl, and the little girl goes to gymnastics, and mom was there with her and watching her and enjoying seeing her little one and, waving at her. And I believe she's 4 or 5, the little girl is. And no, it's not my granddaughter, it's someone else. But anyway, and so this other mother saw my friend Fiona, and she sees that she's really enjoying watching her daughter doing cartwheels and walking on the small balance beam. And the other mom says, "Oh, is this her first time?" And Fiona looks at her and says, "No, she's been coming here for a year." "Oh," says the other mom. "Oh, well, you're really watching her." And Fiona just kind of looked at her. "Well, yeah, she's my daughter. I want to watch her. That's why I'm here." So she starts looking around because, they always have seats at these places, like benches for the moms to sit on. And she said every stinking mom was on their phone, looking down. Ay, these phones. So I'm sure you've been someplace where you've seen little kids doing something. They're going, "Mommy, mommy," or "Daddy, daddy," and the person is just on their phone. It really irritates me to see someone at the grocery store. Not that I go to the grocery store that often, but if I do, and they're just on their phone. What is so important that you need to be chatting on your phone at the grocery store? I just don't get it. I understand if you forgot something, but they're having a full conversation with someone. It's the store. I guess, as you know, that's a pet peeve of mine. If you didn't, you know now. I love having my phone. But it's just become to me such a, I don't know. It's not helping with parenting. It's easier to give a child a phone to keep them quiet than to try to calm them or talk to them. And for me, talking is so important to your kids. I don't care what age. Okay, so let's get back to, I'm sorry, I'm going off everywhere except for talking about babysitting. Were you ever a babysitter? If you're listening to this on the radio on WDJY 99.1 Atlanta, or if you're listening to this on any podcast, my question to you is, did you ever babysit? How old were you? I didn't babysit till my senior year. And so I was 17, 18, and I babysat for the assistant principal's little girls. But I never babysat till I was older, and they were older. So for all of you who are needing to look for a babysitter, and hopefully with summer right around the corner, you've already found someone, and you have found someone qualified, make sure you get someone who is reliable. And if you don't know okay. If you don't know, you need to start asking questions. If you get someone young, I would highly recommend that you make sure you find someone who is certified in infant and child CPR. And make house rules. In other words, please do not be on your phone while you're here. Unless you need to call 911 and call us. It's your house. You get to make the rules. They're your kids. You get to make the rules. Write them down, because if you write, you can send them on their phone, but I would do old school, write them down, stick them on the fridge, because there's no excuse to say, I didn't know. I forgot what you told me. Have it written down. I'm all about still document everything. I'm just like document every conversation. But it's your house. So you want them to be comfortable. And if this means you're not sure about it and you feel comfortable with a camera in the house, you can tell them, or you don't have to tell them. Because that's your child. You've allowed someone to come into your home and watch your baby. I don't care if your baby's 8 or 9. They're still your baby. It's your house. So just remember that. And if you have to drop off a child at their house, at someone's house for daycare, make sure it's legit daycare. Make sure they're licensed. Not just someone trying to make money, because they know many parents are in need, and some people will take advantage of that. I know that sounds horrible, because they're taking advantage of the parent and the kids. Because some parent, you don't know. If you start looking up stories on bad babysitters, you're going to find some horrific stories. That's why it's so important. Do not hesitate to ask questions. Don't. That's tough. I mean, it's tough finding a good babysitter. Get references and make sure that your child and you have a good conversation about there's no secrets here. You tell me everything that happened. Because that your child and you have every right to ask around. You have every right to ask around. Get background checks. Heck yeah. You don't want to leave your precious gem with someone you know nothing about only because someone told you, I used to leave my kids there. They were really good. Well, why used to? Why aren't they still there? Do a trial run. Do an hour, 2 hours. Ask your kids to let you know how it went. Of course, ask the sitter. And ask your kids, of course, if they can talk, not babies. And always, always trust your gut. That is the most important thing you can possibly do is trust in your gut. If you don't get a good feel about a person, then you need to say, you know what, we're still looking. Children know their abusers about 90% of the time. 90%. Some people will scare them with threats about hurting the parents, or their pets, or their siblings, any family members. Isn't that awful to think people will do that? But they do. This is important for you to always talk to your kids too, about having a conversation of we have no secrets. If someone tells you, don't tell mommy or daddy, you be sure to say, okay, but as soon as mommy and daddy are there, you tell them. Even if someone tells your child, don't say anything or I'm going to come back and hurt you. You've got to have that open communication. And I mean, from the time your child is understanding, like, I guess 3, 4 and on up, they understand. Tell mommy, no secrets, teach them. You're going to have a great relationship with your kids if you do this. Now, the other thing is, if you have to take your child to a house, again, make sure they're legit, make sure they're licensed. But if they have big dogs, that's a red flag for me. That's a red flag. Oh, but the dogs are in a kennel. Oh, the dogs are in the backyard. No. You have got to make sure there's no dogs. I mean, I don't know. You may have the friendliest little pup around, but sometimes those pups get jealous. So this is a true story. There was a child, and I believe the age of the child was 1. Well, this child was killed by 2 dogs that was mauled by these 2 dogs that got inside the house. Now, this happened here in Texas, and the dogs were literally in the backyard. I don't know if they had a screen door. I don't know how they got in. Apparently, I don't know what kind of dogs they were. I do know they weren't pit bulls because everyone's always thinking it's pit bulls. But I believe that I don't know where the babysitter was. I have no idea where the babysitter. Apparently she wasn't watching the children because there was more than one child, but they attacked the toddler and he died. I don't care if it's a family member. You need to check them out. Well, maybe not your parents. Your parents should know, and you should know what your parents are like and the background. But because of this poor baby's gone. And I love dogs. We've always had pups in our house. So I'm just saying, be cautious. And I'm not trying to scare anyone and say, oh, don't take your kids here or don't do that. Just be smart. Be smart about who you're talking to. Be smart about who you're looking into. Because even young kids, like, I don't know if I would have trusted anyone with my kids other than family, my mom and my sisters with my kids when they were little. Because babies can't talk. I mean, be trustworthy. I mean, and that's kind of hard again nowadays with everything that's going on in the world. It's just so important. And make sure, again, you make those rules for that sitter. This is what I want because they're getting paid. You're paying them to watch your baby. So it's very important that you feel comfortable with who you leave your child with. And you know what? If somebody gets upset, well, I recommended them and you didn't like them and they got their feelings hurt, you know what? They will get over it. They are an adult. And you should be very picky who you get because you have these children and once you have a child, you're bound to them until they're 18 and go off to college. And that's the best feeling, just knowing that you get to nurture and form and make this child a good human being, a kind human being. And again, I'm not trying to scare you into not leaving your child with anyone. Find someone who is good and qualified person. But again, do your research and don't wait until the last minute to start looking because we have to be aware. We have to be smart and love your kids and love who's watching them. You need to make sure you have that relationship. And sometimes people will offer to take care of your kids and they're being kind. But if they're just like, you've never had kids, you've just had cats or you've just had dogs and you don't feel comfortable, then don't leave them. And you say, well, you know what? I'll let you know. Of course, again, I know it's hard to say no for some, but you can say no and you don't owe anyone any type of why. You know, we don't need a response. We don't need to tell you why. I just don't want to leave them with you. Okay, how's that? Is that blunt enough? No, do not hesitate to be picky. So anyway, that's my take on babysitters. And because I know summer is around the corner and I know it's very hard for so many of us to be able to find babysitters. We've been taking care of our grandson, let's see, for 6 months, I guess. Yeah. And he, starting in June, we will watch him one day a week. That was the deal. But luckily my daughter-in-law, who is a hygienist, is going to get to work part-time and she'll be at home with her baby. But again, I know she doesn't trust just anyone with him. So we are very careful. Of course, I'm scared the day she's going to come and he's going to have a scratch or a bruise and say, I swear, I don't know how he got. So of course it's funny. You watch your kids when they're your kids, but when they're your grandkids, you watch them even closer. So anyway, thank you for listening. I hope I was able to give you some helpful hints on finding babysitters, and I hope I didn't scare anyone. But anyway, please go find your blessings, and until I see you next week, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope that good things come your way.